evening, everybody, wherever you are in California and beyond. Welcome to California Free Radio. I'm Mike Netter, accompanied by Scott Piotr, the fabulous Kurt English. And as always, we are blasting live on X at Netter Mike, at TaxFighter7, on LinkedIn under Mike Netter, our Facebook groups, not only under our real name, but Rebuild California. And if that's not enough for you, the YouTube channel Outraged. Look, I want to start. There's no more critical time when you watch the show, when you see what we have to say behind the blue curtain, to push it out. Gavin Newsom and his cronies, and I use that word politely because there are kids and small animals that watch this, are pushing the narrative that they're saving democracy as they crush the very soul of California. And as I've said quite often on a number of shows before I roll to my co-hosts, whether it's inept or evil, there is obviously something wrong with the people not even attempting anymore to govern the state of California. If you got Netter News this morning, and if you didn't just go with me, remember, you can Google Netter News and it's free, and everybody who watches this has that kind of money. We put out the headline that the state of California, the SOS, which really has one job for Prop 50, which is to get the ballots and the information correct, screwed it up. Yes, indeed, you heard correctly. They had one mission and they did not do it well. And to about 20 million voters or so, no one's quite sure, mailed the wrong information on one of the congressional districts, which I believe was 27, 22. It really doesn't matter. The map is wrong. One job, they got it wrong. And if there are many day jobs that they have, which is kind of keeping the voter rolls correct, they're not doing that very well. Gavin Newsom is talking about protecting democracy, but the reality is we don't have that in California, where we have a supermajority, where we have people, as I talk about quite often, that don't participate in the process, that don't pay attention. Let me tell you right now, this is a record break on both sides, the side for no, which we're on, and the side for yes, which is Gavinus is on, for basically a 100-day run with publicity on TV. When I watch baseball games, football games, there's ads on both sides. But here's the reality. Gavin is counting on you not paying attention. Thinking no one's going to notice who this election taking place on an oddball November 4th in an off year, and I'm going to ram it through, and I'm going to raise a lot of money to raise my profile. Now, across the state in 58 counties, the Republican Party is made up of 58 county parties. And tonight we're delighted to have one of the strongest on. But before we get to that, Scott, Kurt, say something intelligent. Well, at least Kurt, say something intelligent. And then we're going to roll to a little
So, Mike,
video.
it's very important that we talk about no on Proposition 50. It's Gavin Newsom trying to get 5 extra seats in the House for the Democrats. It's not about democracy. Every word of the ads with Gavin Newsom on them promoting yes on 50 are lies. So what everyone watching today needs to know is they're mailing ballots to every California registered voter on Monday. It's very important that you immediately vote no on Proposition 30 and either take it to the registrar of voters or put it in a secure box, because the people who are going to be chasing those the people who haven't voted need to know you've already voted, so they don't focus their resources on you.
100%. Scott.
See, he was trying to emphasize the fact that the Secretary of State screwed up. It's not Prop 30, it's Prop 50. He wanted to see if anybody would catch that. So there's only one thing on the ballot, and it's a crack up. If you guys remember the debate that Newsom had against DeSantis, governor of Florida, it's like DeSantis would sit there and hit him with facts, and Newsom would just come back with lies, and he would say them like, "Oh, hey, they're true," and DeSantis said, "Well, that's not true because X, Y, and Z." And Newsom would go, "Yeah, well, whatever." I mean, he can't say anything unless he lies. And just about everything, I sit there and I read his X feed, And practically, he's got these two young guys, a gal and a guy, I guess,
The
that are
frat freaks,
posting for
as
him.
we call them. Yes.
What are they called?
I call them the frat freaks. They look like people literally whose posture you would belt if you met them on the street and they hide behind the keyboard.
Yeah. So
Go,
those guys
ahead.
are out there lying
Now
for him day in, day out. So, it's just kind of curious what's going on. Mike, you want me to introduce this video that we're about to watch?
Yes, why don't you do that? But hold on, I want everybody to spend 2 minutes and watch this. The quality isn't this great. It was pulled from a meeting, but I want you to really pay attention because for everyone out there, why we're trying to get you all to vote, legit voters. Scott, how did you feel about your pets voting?
I think that would require a voter ID. Yeah. Oh, wait a second. We don't do that in California because the Democrats want to cheat. So this interview, one of the board of supervisors, Don Wagner, Republican here in Orange County, he is
Running for Secretary of State.
Yeah, he's kind of cross-examining Bob Page, our registrar of voters, about an incident where this lady registered her dog to vote. Watch with us.
But, and so under federal law, if you do not provide proof of identity and residence, you cannot successfully vote in a federal election. So, but that doesn't mean that we don't keep you on the roll. But you can't vote in a federal election. The state law only requires that you sign an affidavit under penalty of perjury. It does not require proof of identity.
Okay. Well, all right. So did the dog provide a driver's license, an identification, a social security number, some sort of identifying information? The answer is no, right?
I want to be careful about talking about the details of an ongoing prosecution publicly, because I don't want to in any way jeopardize the successful prosecution of the defendant in this case.
I think she's pleaded guilty.
Well,
So did the dog provide a driver's license or an identification or social security number? And I think the answer would be no, which is why it got to vote in the recall, right?
according to the press release issued by the district attorney, the fictitious registration for Maya did not provide proof of identity, which then, as was reported by the district attorney, led to the ballot cast in the 22 primary election being rejected by the Registrar of Voters office. But as I mentioned, because state law doesn't require proof of identity, the district attorney alleges that the ballot was cast in the 21 recall election and that ballot was counted.
And so we had a peculiarly, specifically California election, the recall election.
Correct.
The dog got to vote. Now, we are coming up on a peculiarly California special election to gerrymander the state. Would a dog be allowed to register, or would I be allowed to register my dog Spot without a driver's license, ID number, social security number for the coming election?
For the coming election, we have just over 2,600 voters on the roll who have not yet provided proof of identity or residency, who will receive a ballot. And under state law, if they cast that ballot, it will not be rejected for the reason of not providing an identity.
So it could be a dog. It could be Spot Wagner. It could be, right?
I'm saying these are people who have not provided proof of identity.
Right. Spot Wagner's going to vote.
Well, it just shows you how much fraud there is in California's election system.
Well, it shows you that what he said there, I think, is critically important as we introduce our guests. I'm going to do some more tech stuff here in a second. That where the federal elections require it, state does not. Ballots are mixed. And the reality is that's why our next guest has done a fabulous job keeping hold and making ground in Orange County. Scott, bring in our guest. I'm going to go off camera for just a little bit here.
Hey, welcome, Will.
I appreciate it. Thank you. By the way, I got to tell you, I love that video. The incredible thing is that video is actually from the second meeting about that topic. The first meeting was a vote where Don Wagner, Republican, and Janet Wynn, Republican, asked their colleagues to even put it on for agendizing. And it was rejected by their 3 Democrat colleagues. And one of their Democrat colleagues is a woman named Katrina Foley. And if you want to see the video of this, we actually put it on our X profile for the OCGOP. But she actually said during her comments, this is a direct quote, "I, of course, want to remove every non-eligible voter from the voter rolls, especially those who don't support my core values." Scott, I think she would want you off her core, off the voter rolls. But I mean, this is one of the reasons the county party exists, because we've got to at least take back one of those seats on the board of supervisors here in Orange County. As you can see, they're the ones that direct the registrar of voters on purging non-humans from the rolls.
Yeah, so he actually, well, first of all, for everybody, this is Will O'Neill. Will O'Neill is the chairman of the Orange County Republican Party. He's a Stanford grad, so don't hold that against him. But I served on the Newport Beach City Council with Will for a couple of years. And so we had fun dealing with a lot of issues down in Newport Beach. We had 7 Republicans on the, I don't know if you call some of our colleagues Republicans, but I think they were actually registered.
Nominally.
I want to start, but go ahead.
So anyway, Will's got his hands full. He's jumped in out of elective office. He was term limited out of Newport Beach as chairman of the Republican Party. And anybody that's been involved with volunteering for party politics and things like that, it's like herding cats. You're never going to please everybody every time. You've got to be a driving force to get the machine moving in the right direction, and hope that you do it in a way that doesn't alienate anybody and gets everybody as much as possible to volunteer, just like any other volunteer organization. You've got to try and keep them happy and try and steer them in the right direction all at the same time. And it doesn't always work. So my hat's off to you, Will. That's a task that is unenviable, and you're doing a great job so far.
Thanks,
I also want to jump in for a second, Will, before we get started. Remember, we've got a pretty big audience here. And for everybody, when I started doing this 5 years ago in the recall, and I'm doing this for the people like me, Will, who aren't as experienced in it. I thought Central Committee was something out of an old Moscow 60s movie. They're like, there's elections for a Central Committee. I go, oh my God, I thought Stalin was dead. And so let's start with explaining how, first off, there's 58 counties, there's 58 chapters of the Republican Party. To let you know, the pictures behind Will, he did not buy with his salary, because you don't get paid for doing what Will does. So for all of you out there that thought Will was right because he was a lawyer, I just burst your bubble. Because the people that do it, God bless you, okay? And the lobotomies are free at the end of the show, okay? They don't get paid for taking the abuse. But explain how your party is constructed a little bit here before we dive into the issues, because people don't even know how to get involved. Like, again, assume they're like me, a guy that kind of like fell into this.
Yeah, so there are a lot of different ways to get involved. First off, I would really encourage folks, and I'm going to answer your question about the Central Committee, but I do encourage you, if you are sitting here, and especially I'll say over the last 2 weeks, especially after Charlie Kirk's assassination, we've had a lot of people reach out and say, hey, I want to get off the sidelines. How do I do that? There are a lot of ways to do that. And frankly, probably the easiest way is find a Republican chapter near you. There are a lot of them, and especially here in Orange County, there's one for pretty much every community. You can find that through, the Republican assemblies. You can find that through Republican Women Federated. There are a lot of different groups that you can go join. Central committees, you're right. There are 58 counties, and there are 58 different ways to have a central committee. But here in Orange County, the way that we do it is we have 6 elected members for every assembly district that we have here in Orange County. We have a lot of them because here in Orange County, we have 3.2 million people that live here. We are, as a county, the same size as Nevada and actually bigger than 22 states. So to your point, I am working for free running the county party.
You're not as fun as Vegas.
No,
you're as big as Nevada, but not as fun as Vegas.
Newport's fun on Friday nights, but the point though is that when you are you're creating this central committee, people have to run to be on the central committee. So during presidential years in the primary, people from each assembly district can run, and the top 6 vote getters are on the Central Committee. And then amongst the Central Committee members, and there are about 74 on the Orange County Central Committee, they choose their officers. So they're the ones that choose who the chairman will be. So I was elected chairman in January of this year. And then everyone, you're right, everyone who serves on there serves for no money. And it is a pure volunteer effort, but it's a big deal because through the Orange County GOP, I have a lot of, we have a lot of mechanisms to help Republicans get elected. And that's our core mission. Our core mission is grow the party and win more for the Republican Party.
And I'm going to jump in again here because on X, you'll notice lately for not only standing up against Prop 50, but I've been, quote, reposting, retweeting, whatever Elon decides he wants to call it this week on Facebook, reposting, re-Zuckerberging, and on LinkedIn, etc., the various parties to make you aware of them. Because if you don't want to serve on a central committee, which a lot of people don't, you guys, and again, I've been all over the state. I'm going to give a few props to Will because I've been to literally all 58 central committees. You folks have a pretty big, I'm going to call it fun meeting with some good speakers each month, correct? Tell us about that, how people find it, because again, a lot of people just want to go and get some information and eat hors d'oeuvres. And the hors d'oeuvres at OC are very good, not as good as Las Vegas. Back to you, Will.
No, they're not as good as Las Vegas. Yeah, so there are a couple ways you can make sure if you want to attend our meetings, they're open to registered Republicans. And so you're welcome to come anytime. We're transparent. We want to make sure people see the process. At this last meeting, we were actually working through some endorsements, and we had a great discussion. We had a debate between colleagues. So it was a lot of fun, and we make sure people see them. But when it comes to seeing the meetings, 2 ways. One, you can jump on our website, ocgop.org. But the best way, just sign up for our emails. You can also do it at our website, ocgop.org. On the emails, we actually send out an email every Monday with all of the events going on in Orange County, and there are a lot. And then every Friday we send out an email. And then when we need to issue press releases, we do the same thing. So I really encourage people sign up for our email blast. But you're asking, how do we keep it lively and entertaining? I go out of my way to ask for folks to show up. And if you can bring a lot of people, and we have, speakers want to speak. And so we've been really fortunate there. And then actually one time, I have a friend of mine who's a congressman out in Arizona, a real patriot named Eli Crane. And Eli was actually out visiting Newport Beach with his family. And he reached out and said, hey, we're going to be out there. Is there anything I can do to help? I said, you want to speak to a Central Committee? And he said, let's do it. So I was actually able to get a former SEAL team member, now current congressman, to come speak to us. And I'll tell you, that'll draw a crowd. That was fun.
And by the way, I'm going to give you an additional plug and let Scott interview you for a second here. What I've noticed, and again, I'm kind of deep into politics is the best way to put it up and down the state. What you do a really good job at, if you're a Republican listening to this, we've got a few Democrats, but the majority, and you with some substance in Orange County. Correct me if I'm wrong, Will. I notice you pub a lot of events that aren't necessarily OCGOP events. That's what I love about your feed. Frankly, it makes my life easier. I can get some posts off of it. But tell people can submit. Tell us the process of that, because I talk to people in Orange County like, how do I get the information to OCGOP? I gave them your home phone, but I know you didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, actually, the funny thing is I do have business cards with my cell phone number on it. I didn't used to give that out, but then I was mayor of Newport Beach twice, and everyone has my cell. So, but you can email me, Chairman O'Neill, Oneill. The proper way to spell O'Neill, by the way, but Chairman O'Neill at ocgop.org. You can also email our executive director, Randall Avila. All of his contact information is on our website. Like I keep directing folks there. But we love promoting events. There are a handful that sometimes just aren't quite in the purview, but most of them are. And so if you send it to us, we'll make a quick judgment call and get them out on Monday. So that email is great. You're right, Mike. I mean, a lot of people like doing that. And, we've been able to drive some good folks, good volunteers that direction. So that's a good way to kind of figure out really quickly where you might fit in and come in, jump in. The water's warm.
Let's talk about our.
So, Will, I've got a question.
Okay.
Well, I've got a question. Tell me what
Yeah, Kirk.
the Orange County Republican Party is doing to get the vote out for the no on 50 election on
Uh,
November.
Yeah, so a lot is the answer. So, real quick, my basic understanding, based on how I've seen everything playing out so far, is that there are sort of three lanes that people are playing in right now. You sort of have the on the no on 50 side, that is. So you have the no on 50 side that Charlie Munger's helping to run. He's put in about $33 million of his own money so far. I mean, God bless the guy, because right now the Democrats are just pouring money in, and so. Having him at least there has been really helpful. But Charlie is really running an organization that is not partisan at all, and so he's trying to get persuadable voters, left of center, right and down the center, to vote no on this. You also have Kevin McCarthy working with the former California GOP chair, Jessica Malone Patterson, and based on what I've seen, they're kind of doing they're doing something similar. They'll definitely target toward Republicans. They'll definitely target toward non-Republicans. We are doing nothing but targeting Republicans at the OCGOP. And so the reason we're doing that in particular is when we go out and knock on doors, and we've knocked on a lot of doors, what we are seeing is we pre-programmed questions into an app. And that first question is, do you even know an election is coming? When I go out and knock on doors, I'm getting about half the responses, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And so we are really concerned about the idea that people are going to get their ballots and then just throw them away. And so we are doing everything we can right now to publicize this. So we don't have one main face of the No on 50 campaign, the same way that Gavin Newsom is clearly using almost $300 million of taxpayer dollars to host an election that is essentially his coming out party for running for president. So for us, what we're doing is we're making sure that we're getting out and having people that people trust in their local communities really be the voice. And so over about a 36-hour period, we at the OCGOP, and there's a lot of phone calls on my part, we're able to get over 130 elected officials in Orange County to oppose Prop 50. And so we have all of their names. We've sent them out. They're publicized. And then actually we have about a dozen, I believe, cities right now. I'd have to double check our numbers, but about a dozen cities, the Board of Education, and more bodies are actually taking resolutions and voting again to tell their residents vote no on 50. And so that's part of it. And then I'll just say real quickly, we're doing a lot more than that. So we're knocking on doors. We're sending out postcards. We just got signs in the office. I know that there's a lot of controversy with some county parties and the state party trying to sell signs to people. We actually got enough donations that we have 400 signs sitting in our office right now. And I just want to say a real quick special thank you to John Park in particular for organizing that effort. And so we have 400 signs, and the condition for of that is we will make zero money on it. We will give them away for free. So if you want to sign on No on 50 here in Orange County, you just got to come down to the OCGOP headquarters, pick up sign, and it's yours. We'd love to have it in your yard.
I want to start, before I jump back to my co-host here, okay, with something basic, because again, we talk about spreading the word on Prop 50. Prop 50 takes away, I don't care what the commercials say, it's not news, it's not even in the wording, which most people don't read, but Prop 50 splits up Orange County. I want to stop you for 1 second, Will, because you're brighter than me. Not a hell of a compliment, by the way. To explain to everybody what Prop 50 is to Orange County. I'm making sure to share this with a lot of us, because we're assuming people know what Prop 50 is. We're like, no on 50, yes on 50, 50 shades of something. Like, what's 50, dude? In simple terms, explain what 50 is.
Yeah, I mean, so traditionally in our country, we've always had the belief that voters choose their elected officials don't choose their voters. It was getting silly in California, where they drew the line so carefully behind doors that, in back rooms, that literally there was an election where not a single incumbent in the entire state of California lost. And so voters rose up in 2008 and actually took on, in particular, the California Democratic Party, and said, no more. We're going to make sure that all of at least the state legislative lines are going to be drawn by an independent redistricting commission. And it was so popular that 2 years later, voters came back to the ballot and voted overwhelmingly. I mean, the first vote was actually pretty close, but the second one was overwhelming. Congressional lines too. And 60% of Californians, which is, by the way, really hard to get 60% of Californians to agree on anything, but 60% of Californians in 2010 said, no, we want an independent redistricting commission for all of the state offices, including the congressional ones too. So since 2010, voters have said, hey, no more backroom deals. We've got to make sure that we are actually part of this process, and we are choosing you. You're not choosing us. And voters took the power back. So since that time, when the two biggest opponents to those efforts, by the way, were the California Democratic Party and Nancy Pelosi. Fast forward to today, two of the biggest opponents to the idea of the Independent Redistricting Commission, California Democratic Party and Nancy Pelosi, and now add in her relative, Gavin Newsom. So you now have kind of fast forwarded, and so that what they're trying to bank on is the idea that they're doing the exact same thing, but this time they're saying, well, people hate. Maybe people hate Donald Trump so much that we can just throw the name Donald Trump up there and have people vote against their own interests. And so what they've done in this situation is they've said, okay, about 40% of the votes cast in 2024 were cast for in congressional races were cast for Republican candidates. And even out of that, we only had 9 out of 52. So about 18% of the seats are Republican in California. That's not good enough for Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom has said, we want to reduce down that number to 4. And so despite the fact that overwhelmingly that we have way more Republicans than just 4 out of 52, that percentage in single digits, that's what they are doing. And the way they do that is they slice and dice in just crazy ways. And we can show maps of up in, trying to get rid of Kevin Kiley, for example. In the Kevin Kiley district literally looks like an elephant. And the reason it looks like an elephant is because what they've done is that the nose of the elephant is a snake line down into the suburbs of Sacramento to grab a bunch of blue voters and put them up into rural red voters so that they can get rid of Kevin Kiley. Here in Orange County, we currently have 6 members of Congress. And out of those 6 members of Congress, we actually only have 1, but 3 of them are incredibly close races. One was Congressional District 45, which Michelle Steele lost to Derek Tran by 631 votes. You have Dave Min in Congressional District 47, who, by the way, is still on probation as a member of Congress. But he is he beat Scott by a couple points. And then you have Congressional District 49, which is about 1/3 in Orange County and about 2/3 in San Diego. And that actually was pretty darn close as well. All told, in 45, there was about $52 million spent by both sides. Dave Min got about $20 million of outside money. And then Nancy Pelosi poured millions of dollars down into 49 to protect a guy named Mike Levin. So we have really close races in Orange County, and actually make sure that it keeps these guys accountable. And it really at least forces people to try to be good representatives. I haven't seen Dave Min actually try to do that, but normally they're supposed to try. What this would do is take 6 districts and cut it into 8, and then push a bunch of our representation up into Los Angeles, over into Riverside, and down into San Diego. And so, for example, the city of Mission Viejo cut into 3 congressional districts. The city of Santa Ana, 3 congressional districts. Placentia, 3 congressional districts. But they start getting ridiculous because, and I'll stop here in just a second, but there's so much to talk about here.
Keep going. This is exactly where
you've got. So, and the way they do this, by the way, is they take red sections of the county and either put them into one district. So they pack them into one district, which would be Young Kim's district, Congressional 40, and then spread out the blue votes, or they take the red votes and then dilute the heck out of them with blue areas. So, for example, right now, Congressional District 42 is up in the LA area. Specifically, it's all Long Beach and represented by one of the farthest left progressive members in Congress, Robert Garcia. Robert Garcia, if this passes, would actually inherit, go down the coast. So it's still Long Beach, go down the coast, kind of go through the base in Seal Beach, then get to Huntington Beach and 3/4 of Newport Beach. And so they're and so you're now taking some of the reddest areas of California, Huntington and Newport, and stuffing them in with Long Beach for the sole purpose of making sure that you're diluting everyone's votes and silencing their representation. And so that is what they're doing over and over again. But there are some ridiculous ones. You've got 45, which is Derek Tran right now, would actually turn into a spider, where you start in Fountain Valley, go up, go left into Seal Beach, go this way back up, go up all the way up to Norwalk, and then get over. I think it even hits over to Yorba Linda. So you have this little spider effect going on all over the place. This is a huge problem. Just as a matter of politics, it's gross. But as a matter of policy, imagine you're the mayor of Santa Ana. Right now you have Lou Correa. He owes his seat to the city of Santa Ana and is going to fight like hell for the city of Santa Ana. In this case, though, if you split a city like Santa Ana up into 3 different districts, you are now diluting the power not only of that city, but you're also making it much harder for them to seek federal help. And that is true for any city that is like this. And the worst example, by the way, the worst example of this is actually over in Mission Viejo, where I actually found a street where if you are on one side, the even side of the street, you are in a different congressional district than the other side of the street in the even side. It's insane, but this is what happens when you do a bunch of backroom deals and you just kind of draw the lines for the sole purpose of partisanship, not actually representing the people.
All right. Well, have you seen the Yes on 50 ads? Every word that comes out of Gavin Newsom's mouth is a lie.
Well, I mean, that's par for the course. But the 2 main arguments in their ads, they're both lies, to your point. Number one, their main argument is this is only good. This is protecting the Independent Redistricting Commission. Garbage. It is absolutely not doing that. What it's actually doing is it's taking the lines drawn by the Independent Redistricting Commission and throwing them out forever. Because what they're saying, and then the second one is, well, we have to do this to combat President Trump. Again, garbage, because President Trump will no longer be president after 2028 election cycle, but this will last 2 more cycles past three cycles past President Trump's presidential term. And so what they're doing is they are permanently ensconcing their power. And I can guarantee you, just like President Reagan used to say, there's no such thing as temporary when it comes to a government program. Just like this, if they are successful here, they're coming for the rest.
I want to jump in with something very simple, though, that I don't think the average Californian grasps. And Will, you've done an eloquent job, I must say, of explaining what this is. And I mean that sincerely, and I'm not usually that sincere. Just roll with it here. But for the average person to understand the way our forefathers, the architects of the Constitution, designed it, when you have something, and there's many things in California and even on the federal level, no matter what side of the aisle that you're on, and you want to phone somebody who is accessible to you, that is an elected official, that's what Congress was designed for, okay? If I'm unhappy with X, Y, and Z, and assuming my congressperson isn't Maxine Waters, who's allegedly still alive, and she isn't, but let's put that down for 1 second, I should be able to pick up my phone, and if people in my community pick up my phone and said, hey, we'd like this particular power plant built here, not built here, we like the federal funds. And I don't think people really grasp that, because long before I got into this, yes, I'm one of them who used to call my congressperson and say, hey, I got a problem, right? And it literally takes that is the really biggest thing I don't think people grasp, because really the census and the we camp comes along once every 10 years, and then we kind of go about our business. Again, towns are split, cities are split. If I call people, my congressperson where I live, I might as well be living in friggin' Texas, because the new one will have no idea where it is, nor will they give a rodent's posterior. And can I add one more thing? And I want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong, Will. But be kind, because it is my show. Not every state is like California in this respect, what a lot of people don't understand. Scott, when you ran for state assembly, you had to live in that district. When you won for state senate, you have to live in that district. When you're in Alabama, and it's like saying Alabama like that, you have to actually live in your congressional district. But let's add another layer, if you don't mind, Will, and I'd love to see you comment on that. When you're in California, you don't even have to live in the congressional district. You simply have to be either someone's pet, no, or maybe not, or just be a resident or registered voter of California. So somebody from Northern California can actually run anywhere they want, correct, Will?
Yeah, so actually the best example of that is actually Maxine Waters, who does not live in her congressional district. And kudos to you for referencing her and then coming back around on that topic. But it actually brings up a really good point though, which is where these people live actually has influenced their votes. And a great example of that is up in Sacramento, Ashley Zavala, who's one of the only reporters actually doing anything about rooting out corruption in the state legislature.
Ashley, restaurant plug for her. Yes, I text her.
Yeah, she's doing a really good job. She's the one who actually broke the story that the two leaders, the one in the Assembly and the one in the Senate, have essentially had congressional lines drawn for them in exchange for putting this through so quickly through the state legislature. And the best example of this is actually Mike McGuire, who's running the state Senate. And so she broke that story. And then actually our friend, mutual friend of this, John Fleischman, who is now running a Substack called So Does It Matter? And actually you should subscribe to this. He did a great job of diving into this. Yeah. Yeah, and he dove into this and actually showed, where does Mike McGuire live? What does the new boundary look like? And he's termed out. So guess what? He's going to have a line drawn for him if Prop 50 passes, and he played a major role in this. And this is the gross stuff of corruption that you kind of see in other countries. You don't see in the United States. And so what they're doing is they're trying so hard and fingers crossed in their world that voters will look past the corruption, will look past the lies and deceit, and will also, by the way, look past a $283 million price tag to mail out all of these ballots to people and then count them. Not even counting the millions of dollars it's apparently going to take to mail out corrective postcards that you mentioned at the very beginning of this show, because they didn't even mail out the ballots or the informational ballots correctly. This is one of those things where they rushed it through. I thought, by the way, that a couple of assembly members, David Tangapa and Ali Macedo, did a fantastic job. Keep just burrowing in on who drew the maps, because the enacting legislation for all of this said the state legislature did. And they said, we're part of the state legislature. Who drew the maps? And no one would answer them. And interestingly enough, I think it was just yesterday, the story actually broke. Turns out the Democratic Congressional Committee paid for the maps to be drawn by someone in Sacramento named Paul Mitchell. And Paul Mitchell's wife is actually running the Planned Parenthood of California, who is featured prominently in the ads that Gavin Newsom is running.
And hold on, and I keep saying I'm going to flip you to Scott. We've actually known this, and for those of you who don't know who watch the show that are into politics, Paul Mitchell runs an organization called PDI. PDI, and again, you and Scott are way more experienced than I am, but when I came in was about the time PDI finally admitted they were liberal, like no one knew it, kicked out the Republican Party. It says right on their website, we're liberal, expletive deleted. And he runs PDI, who does the voter data for the Democratic Party and drew the maps. For everybody, let me explain what this basically means, okay? It is like when you are in a top security prison like Folsom for allegedly doing some very bad things, being given the keys and asked to hold them for the locksmith while they come and fix the doors. Okay, I can't think of a better metaphor. In other words, not only were they drawn by the Democrats, it was drawn by the Democrats by an outside expert who has never been neutral, that actually the Republican Party used for years, and away we go. And Will, certainly correct me if I got any facts too murky there, but I think I kind of nailed that one.
No, you did, and I'll even highlight the fact that he got paid by a partisan group in DC to do this, and then is going to get paid by all of the people running for these new seats, because he's the one who understands those seats the best. How weird. Good for him. I guess the grift never stops.
Scott, I
So
want you to, you've been Will a long time. I'm going to shut up and go off camera and fix something here on our social media feed. So I'll say, Scott, it's all yours until I decide to interrupt again.
yeah, thanks a lot. So, well, if you're talking to the voters, what is the one thing that you need most to communicate?
Yeah, we need to communicate that this actually silences people and will harm the state from a public policy standpoint. It's also, by the way, you can't argue like the Democrats are doing on this one, and Gavin Newsom in particular. You can't argue you're saving democracy by destroying it. You just can't. And when you are drawing lines down the middle of streets, you are destroying democracy. You are doing everything you can to silence voters and choose who goes there from Sacramento instead of locally. That's what we really need to be able to convince voters of. And what I have found the best way to do this is just show them the maps. I know this is one of those funny propositions where the more people find out about it, the less they want to vote for it, which is why the message coming from the Democrats and in particular Gavin Newsom is, do you hate Trump? Then vote yes. And it's one of those things where you kind of say, no, wait a second, wait a second. If you know a guy and you don't like him, you don't punch yourself in the face repeatedly to spite him. Right? Like this is not what you do. You need to realize voters have power. You don't give it up just because someone says, well, you'll go get that guy over in DC. No, you won't. He's still gonna be president. The real approach here is, guys, just, you have the power right now. Don't give it back.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love the statement. And this is something that I know that we used back in 2008, 2012. It's not something where you want the politicians to choose the voters. You want the voters to choose the politicians. And we have corrupt politicians. They're using Trump as an excuse to basically choose their own voters. The irony, of course, is that we had about 40% of the state voted for Trump, 41 or 42%. And like you say, today we're only represented by 17% of the congressional delegation. And he's going to put this down to what, about 6% if he's successful in getting his guys elected. So, this is an ugly power grab by Newsom. He's trying to endear himself to a national Democratic audience for his run for president. He's spending more money advertising in other states on Prop 50 than in California right now, because he's using it as a fundraising tool, and like you say, enhancing his database and his well, for a politician, as you know, your friends are everything. So if you can put 100 million of your friends in your database and be able to email them, that's a big deal. And between fundraising and voter contact that's being paid for by either donors or the taxpayers, this is a presidential outreach for him. Win or lose, it's a presidential outreach for him. Okay, so it's a low turnout election. And do you have a guess as to how many voters we're going to get turning out? I mean, in a typical gubernatorial race in a primary, you get about 7 million. In the recall, we had about 12 million.
I think we're going to get like 6.5. That'd be my guess, because I was just running the numbers the other day. My guess is probably 6.5 million. It might be lower. I'm really
Stop the presses. Last week we bet Tom Vaccaro. Will, I officially throw the gauntlet down. You take 6.5. I'm actually going to take 5 million. Okay, because the number of people that don't know there is an election, and again, let's just say I'm a grassroots guy. Pretty obvious they won't allow me in the penthouse. Okay, not even as a waiter. But literally the number of people that don't realize what they're getting. I mean, this is, and I'm jumping in because you could tell I'm a bit, obviously I need a lobotomy, Will, but I'm over the top here. Okay, Gavin Newsom, and I want to get your opinion on this, okay, before we get to stories here. Gavin Newsom, in my not so humble opinion, doesn't give a damn whether he wins or loses this. What? No, he actually doesn't. In a way he does. He's banking on a low turnout. But Gavin Newsom discovered, which unfortunately I may have taught him during the recall, that he can raise unlimited funds by just slapping something on the ballot. And an interesting point being that this is what, about an 8-week run, Will, okay? And Gavin is going to people like Netflix, all right? Like the people that own, the Almond Farm and Fiji Water, whatever the hell their name is, right? And collecting $1 million at a crack. And how the expletive deleted, beep, 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 he manages to burn through that much money, and he won't in 8 weeks. He's going to take that leftover money. Yes, I know he can't technically spend it on a federal election, but he certainly can spend it on other things like he did with the Save Democracy PAC. So, Will, the reason we had you on tonight, not just because you're smarter, and remember, the older I get, the better looking I was, so I once looked like you, Will. It was really to mention the fact people have to get involved and spread the word. Okay,
Yeah.
most people don't watch TV, and I want them to take these wonderful messages that you put out. I mean, I know people want to get lawn signs, God bless you, get them, but take an image of a lawn sign and email and text it to your friends who have no idea what No 150 is going on. But heck, they've taken my restaurant recommendations. They've even seen that bad movie. They'll trust you, No on 50. And tell them how they can get your assets. I don't know if you have emails available. What do you have available to help people reach out to become what I call a digital social warrior, besides just social media?
No, you're 100% right, Mike. Frankly, what we need to be doing is making this as easy as possible for people, and we are actually. So the OCGOP, literally today, actually, we just put up a No on 50 website. So if you go to the OCGOP website, you're going to see a subsection about No on 50, and we're going to help you with that, messaging and et cetera. I also have been posting for quite some time on my own social media, so not just my X, but I actually 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we'll put out a discussion that are called Quick Daily Updates, which are actually holdovers from my time as mayor during 2020. But I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I talk about public policy here in California, and oftentimes it's local or California based. And you can actually see me. So on the Chiron on the bottom here, it's at Real Will O'Neill. That's not just my X profile. That's actually Facebook and also Instagram. On both of those, I will regularly post images to make sure that people have them. I'll post videos so people can have them, steal them. You don't even need to give me credit for it. Like, just steal them and post them into your own social media, because I will just tell you real quickly, one of the things, I know a lot of people get upset when they create something and, someone steals it. And for most people, I think that's fair. For me, I don't care, because what matters at the end of the day on this is getting the, yeah, I mean, you see it everywhere, but I don't care.
No.
I mean, I
I'm
really don't.
laughing because when we went to college, they said don't plagiarize. Whatever you do, don't plagiarize. When I got into the business world, they said copy the other people's stuff. I said, isn't that plagiarism? They go, no, we call it best practices. And so best practices, everything you can off Will. And if Will sues you, you're in trouble. He's a lawyer. But my point is, stop worrying about this thing of giving credit. We're all in this together, and we need to spread the word.
Yeah, and so that's and that's the deal with being chairman of a county party. I don't care who gets credit for it, as long as we're winning and putting the message out there. And so, if I cared about who got credit and whatnot, I'd probably try to get paid to be chairman. I am not, as you pointed out at the very beginning of this. And so my preference is, let's just win. Let's just get out there and do it together. And so we've actually been doing, one of the other things I forgot to mention is we actually, I think most people assumed this was happening. It was not. So now we're doing it. We now have all of our club presidents coming once a month into our headquarters, and we're just talking best practices with them. We're showing them what technology we have available to us. We have a lot of data available to us, and so we're sharing it with them. We're working really hard to make sure that club presidents, look, God bless those folks. I mean, my goodness, like the abuse they take sometimes is brutal, but but they step up and they lead. And so we want to make sure we're empowering them to do that. And I really appreciate everything that they do. So we'll give them messages. They can use them, not. We have a bunch of data. They can use them or not. But man, my favorite is when we put a call out to folks. like for postcards, for example. We've ordered 9,000 postcards, and we're going to keep ordering them as long, as fast as I can fundraise toward this. We're going to keep ordering postcards because we want to make sure people know, hey, vote, vote. And so we put a call out, and we had one club say we'll take 1,000, another club said we'll take 2,000. Like people just right away, let's go. And so we're doing a lot in Orange County, and my best guess, and I don't want to step on any toes, but my best guess is I think we're doing probably as much as any party, if not more, right now. And I think people are going to start seeing also text messages coming to them in their local communities from us that is talking, it's coming from, it's highlighting, those 130 people that I mentioned already, 130 plus elected officials throughout Orange County that are opposing Prop 50. Hey, let's get their faces out there. Let's get their names out there, because if you're getting a message from the OCGOP saying, hey, your mayor says vote no on 50, you probably know your mayor, or at least you might know who it is and trust them. So we're really hoping we can get that message out there and get local communities activated so that they're turning their ballots in and voting no.
You give a lot of credit to them.
Well, a couple of questions here for you since you're an attorney. One, if there are errors in the ballots, would that make it vulnerable to a lawsuit to invalidate or postpone the election? And two, given your excellent discussion about the maps, are there potential federal claims for denying people representation with these maps?
Yeah. So the answer is I am not that kind of lawyer. So the answer is I hope that there are really good claims out there. But I also know, as far as kind of where the lanes are on this, the California GOP has been working really close, and I think they've been public on this. The California GOP is working with the NRCC, the National Republican Congressional Committee, on handling kind of the litigation side of things. The problem here is there are actually a lot of federal. So you've seen challenges in state court. The California Supreme Court just summarily got rid of it, in a one sentence challenge from elected officials. I mean, we had state elected officials challenging this as plaintiffs, and the Supreme Court said with one sentence, nah, we're not going to look at it.
Yeah, they had an R after their name. What do you expect?
It was not great. So and then you really haven't. I know Steve Hilton has filed a federal claim. I'm not sure where that is, but most of the federal claims, in conversations I've had with election attorneys, they have been very clear with me. There is a doctrine in federal court that typically says you have to wait until after the election to file the challenges. And so I know there's ripeness, but it's a specific doctrine. I'm just forgetting the name of it. But so I do expect challenges. I absolutely expect challenges. And frankly, if fingers crossed, the DOJ gets involved on this as well, especially the Civil Rights Division. But right now, I'm not surprised to see kind of a wait until after the election to file those challenges.
So I want to give voters some encouragement here. So we talked about a relatively low turnout election, and we're fighting it on the law front basis. We're fighting it and trying to get the word out is the big thing. But they should be encouraged. In a typical primary, a lot of the reasons why the Democrats moved all propositions in the state now have to be on the November ballot. And the reason they did that is because the turnout in June usually leans Republican rather than Democrat. It's a lower turnout. Republicans are more motivated and usually are better at getting out to vote. And so the Dems didn't want all their pet causes losing. They wanted to make sure that they all came out in November. And so Gavin Newsom's trying to make it like the recall. He wants to get 12 million people out there. I don't think it's going to happen because, like you said, it's just not, it's not very glamorous, right? Prop 50, what the heck is that? So it's encouraging. I think that we have a chance to stop this. We just have to pass the word. And if all the Republicans got out to vote like they normally do in a primary, we win. We stop this.
Yeah, and even more than that, Scott. So when you want to put a proposition, this is a little bit in the weeds, but it'll be quick. When you want to put a proposition on the ballot, you want to start above 60% yes. when you start polling. At no point has this ever been above 60% yes. Not the governor's polling, not the the nicest polling you could possibly get on the Democratic side. They have not had a poll above 60%. I think that this is sitting somewhere between 49 and 52% yes, and 40-ish percent no. There's a lot of undecided left out there. The good news for this is that people typically break no when they're confused or they just think this is silly. I think there are going to be a lot of Democrats that look at this and say, look, I know what the ads say. And as a Democrat, I don't like Donald Trump. I think that's going to go through their heads. But I also think the second one is going to be, but this is gross and I'm not doing it. And they'll either sit on their hands or they'll vote no and just not tell their friends they voted no. On the Republican side, this is one of those times where we don't get a lot of these issues, where we are 100% united. And we are 100% united against Prop 50. There's not a single Republican that is going to vote yes on this thing. And if they do, they're just confused. But there's not a single Republican out there who is on the yes side. If they had them, they'd have them in ads. They don't exist. And so I've told our club presidents, I've talked to our Central Committee, I've talked to our state party about this. Like, look, Rahm Emanuel, who I do not like to quote very often on anything, except for don't let a good crisis go to waste. Guys, if you are a Republican organization right now and you are not building up your membership based on this, if you are not fundraising to stop this, you are not doing it right. And I'll tell you one thing, which is we have said this is an all hands on deck moment for us. And on our X page for the OCGOP, we said, if you are planning on seeking the endorsement of the Orange County Republican Party next year, you better have a good answer to the question, which will be the first question you get, which is, what did you do to help stop Prop 50? And I really hope every county party has that same ethos right now, because this is all hands on deck. And if someone cannot answer that question, I don't really know why we would endorse them.
And I want to jump in on a couple things, Will, before we let you go. Next week, we're having Roxanne Hogue talking about what LA is doing. And 2 weeks from now, we're going to have actually Mark Moiser on talking about the Dillon Law Group federal lawsuit, which is filed. So this won't even be over with the vote, but I really want to pile on a little bit of what you said. Because, again, Gavin Newsom, well, Gavin doesn't know what he's doing. Who am I kidding? But he has allegedly people around him. He allegedly pays a lot of money who are smart. And this is about raising money. And you're right. And I said this quite often. He's actually, and I'm going to make this akin to the recall, and you can disagree with me if you want, Will, and I don't really give a rodent's posterior. We started the recall not as much to recall Gavin Newsom. We started to simply wake up the state in an off election year, okay, and saying, hey, have you any idea what the hell's going on, right? And this rallied to become, whether or not we won it, I know this is a separate issue, but the point is, we certainly fired up a lot of movement. To me, Prop 50, we may have taught Gavin that behavior a little bit, how to raise money off of it. He's like a trained dog. And yes, the trained dog can vote in California. But the reality is, yeah, this is an opportunity for us, okay? This is a huge opportunity for us, especially in Orange County, where, you know, pay attention, everybody. Pay attention whatever county that you're in. It's pretty simple. If you don't understand it, and I like that, if you don't know what it is, vote no. Like we say on the bonds. If you don't know what it is, vote no. If it's a tax, vote no. If you don't know what 50 is, vote no. And most of us, obviously I'm the dumbest guy on the show, I don't know how the hell they draw these damn maps. I failed in Boy Scouts because I got left behind with a pack of people because I thought I was holding the compass upside down, for God's sakes. That's a joke for those of you in Boy Scouts, okay? The reality is, I'm not a map drawer. I shouldn't have to pay attention to this. This isn't my day job. You want to unify again one thing. Vote no on 50. It's pretty simple. Because, Will, let me ask you a question. Straightforward. Do you meet anybody, I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican, that really is happy with the taxes that they're paying in California, that thinks they're paying too little, they'd be happy with paying more? that really enjoys the homeless, really enjoys the way things are going, that really trusts the California government 100%. They might yell in the streets and run around. Those people I find don't actually vote. You don't trust your government. This is a government proposition, right?
Yeah, and the answer is no. I don't talk to anyone who says Democrat, Republican, NPP that they're happy with all of the taxes they're paying and the services that they're getting in return. And so on this one, when you realize, they're spending 283 million plus whatever it is to fix the errors they've already made on this ballot, then you realize they're just wasting our money, left, right, and center. I mean, they're just wasting our money. And so the interesting thing that we've seen from California voters is that when it comes down to partisanship, the majority of them are voting straight D right now. But when it comes to issues and when it comes to propositions, they're a lot more Republican than the rest than they're letting on. And in this last election cycle, when 70% of Californians rejected Newsom's attempt to submarine Prop 36 and voted yes on making crime illegal again, that was a message being sent that they were tired of the way that things are being governed. And quite frankly, anyone who looked in January and saw hydrants run dry during a fire in Los Angeles needs to wake up and realize the Democrats, especially ones at local level, they are the ones that are not looking out for you. They are the ones that are looking out for themselves. And that's what Prop 50 is about. They are looking out for themselves. They're trying to draw lines for themselves. And if voters say, hey guys, we are going to make sure that we get to draw our own lines and stay in power, if voters will ratify that, then there is no stopping them. There is no effort that we can launch properly to make sure we're pushing back and making sure that our families are safe, that our education is good, that our water is clean, that infrastructure works. Because they are simply going to say to themselves, we know what we're doing. We know that we can just keep the power for ourselves and screw the voters.
And Will, I think that's almost a great way to finally let you go before your time expires as head of the OCGOP, keeping you here that long. Look, the reality is, everybody, we voted in the death penalty twice. Newsom nullified it. We voted in Prop 36 because even the criminals don't want to get shot. Newsom claimed there wasn't 150 million to implement it, and we spent 250 million on this election. We voted in independent redistricting, and Will, what did Newsom do? Trying to undo it,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Scott, Kurt, give Will a point.
Hey guys, Will O'Neill on his Twitter feed, Real Will O'Neill, posted, following up on his fire comment, that only 2 reconstruction permits have been issued in Malibu since the January fire. Well, that's a great catch, and Scott is in that world too. It just shows you the mass incompetence and corruption of the Democrat-run state, because they want to put low-income housing there. They don't want to let those people rebuild.
Yeah, 720 structures lost, and in January, and we're now sitting in October. 2 permits have been issued. It's a gross malfeasance. I can't even imagine a Republican city sitting on those. We'd run them out on a rail, but in LA they keep voting for the same people.
Yep. Somehow we got to stop all the bad habits we've gotten into, and I think you're right. I think the voters, when it comes to issues, they're smarter. They're looking at the issues and they're voting what they feel about the issues. If there's not a D or an R associated with it, they tend to vote correct. They're more conservative than the partisan side lets on. So, well, hey, Will, thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time, and I know you're busy because you're probably doing a lot of these kinds of things. So, again, thanks for joining us, and we're glad that you're out there busting your butt on this.
I appreciate it. Thanks for giving me the chance to talk on it, and I appreciate the fight you guys are putting up. So we'll go out and give it everything we got, and on November 4th, we'll get the ballots coming in, and then for the next month we find out what the results are. But I'm sure hopeful on this one.
Will, thank you very much. Thank you for everything you do. Remember, OCGOP. Not only does it rhyme, it's easy to find, and I don't care if you're in OC or not. Support to keep Orange County as red as you can, because let's face it, blue and orange don't go together. Will, thank you very much for being on our show. And let's keep it up. We'll be reconvening for a victory party. Remember, OCGOP, Will O'Neill in charge, and follow the real Will O'Neill, because I didn't know there was a fake one, quite honestly, but roll with that. Thank you, Will. We're going to go ahead
See
and
you,
put
Will.
you out. We're just going to cover some stories for the day here as we roll the end.
Blue and orange go together if you ask a Denver Bronco fan. Just
No, if you ask a Boise State
or
fan.
Fighting Illini. Come on. All right. What are we talking about here, Kurt?
Let's talk about some of the stories of the day here. We certainly know about the ballot one. We had a few in Netter News, the permits that have been reissued. Kurt, I'm going to ask you, you send us notes every week on various things, but did you find one thing this week the California government did well?
No, they're all about things the California government did poorly, as they are every week, Mike, because the California government does nothing well.
And Scott, you're rolling a great thing too. We're going to be doing Save Prop 13. There's a petition of the people that's out. We're going to be doing a whole show on that. Kurt, hit us up with some of the stories that you put us in the feed there as we roll the end.
All right. Well, we talked about Proposition 50, which is sort of the thing we're focused on the next 5 weeks. And turns out there was a $30 million donor for Yes on 50, and George Soros is a $10 million donor for Yes on 50. So that ought to tell you kind of everything you need to know. If whatever they're for, normal people are against.
Minor details. So, tell me some of the things that are going on with some of these laws that are being signed now. They've been passed by the legislature, and they're on the governor's desk.
Well,
is he going to sign
yeah,
them?
Mike will have some updates on those. AB 495, the steel, the children bill. Mike, where are we on that one?
Gavin? It's still on Gavin's desk, has not been signed yet.
Okay, and then we have the
it's got to be really tough for him on some of these bills.
That, assaults. We have the bill that assaults free speech, SB 771.
I believe
that's going to charge social media companies for
effective October 15th. If you cuss out Gavin on social media, well, let's put it this way, I may see him in court, or it's going to cost me a lot of money. And
so
they haven't.
So Gavin signed that, and they're going to try to regulate the providers to.
It's relatively vague. So this is actually almost a show into itself, and let me explain a couple things there. Many of us, and by the way, I get tired of hearing it's a conspiracy theory, because Google actually admitted it the other day that YouTube, owned by Google, is now putting back all the conservative channels that they took down during COVID. And I've given you my stories many a time, how Warren Heatley and myself were suppressed, et cetera, et cetera. We know that the Twitter files were released when Musk bought Twitter. That, for those of you that were paying attention, was a big deal. So Gavin Newsom now has signed, I believe it's 771 or whatever the hell it is, okay, that says if on social media misinformation is put up and not taken down, the social media company can be fined, okay? It's a little vague exactly who decides what the social media information is, but Scott, I got a shocker for you. Are you ready?
Can't wait.
It's probably not going to be Republicans, okay? So whoever
well, what I like is Elon Musk in a battle with, I think it was it Venezuela or no, Brazil, where they basically the Supreme Court there ruled that they had to abide by certain things, pull certain things down, and Elon Musk basically said, "Hell no," and they said, "Well, then you're going to be fined," and he goes, "Yeah, try and catch me." And now we want you to pull it off the internet. He goes, yeah, the internet's bigger than you. So I would love to see Elon Musk's response to AB 771 or SB 771.
Well,
They're going
what's
to come and ask him, screw
interesting is
you.
that, let's be clear here. The way Gavin signed the danger here is indeed, yes, we'll win in the long run. But just like during COVID, guys, okay, you don't call it shadow ban, call it by a number of terms here. In the meantime, our voices on things will be quashed a bit. Now, the good news is Zuckerberg and many of these who runs Facebook, they're suddenly become Republicans because Trump's in office, right? And they'll suddenly become Democrats if a Democrat's in office because they'll certainly do what's best for them. But they do have the ability to try it, make it more difficult in California. And look, I don't care if you're right. I don't care if you're left. I don't give a damn what you are. As long as you're not rude, obscene, or threatening someone's life, you have a right to the opinion. And what's misinformation, like during COVID, turned out to be, well, it's the truth because sorry they died from this stuff. Okay, but in
Now,
the
really,
meantime,
is it really a conspiracy theory if it ends up being true?
is it
So
really?
I would
Is it
love
No,
it.
it then becomes the truth.
I would
paranoia when
love
they
it.
think if you know they're after you and just don't think they're after you? Is it really paranoia, as the old saying goes?
I would love to see Elon Musk and X censor Gavin Newsom off of X because practically everything he posts is demonstrably false. And so
It's
under
gonna
his
be
new law, he would be censored, right?
it's difficult to say because of the way it's written, and of course, like many things in California, how they're going to enforce it. Kirk, give us two more stories and let's roll to the end here.
All right, we talked about the fire incompetence with Will. That's usual. A couple of gun rights stories. The DOJ is suing the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office because they're just not issuing carry permits. And I think we're going to have some good success on that. And the Central District of California, the district court has issued a complete injunction to prevent the state law that would have prevented youth shooting programs.
I have another item. You had it on your list. Remember one of these other stupid laws that Gavin signed? One of them was they're going to forbid law enforcement from wearing masks when they arrest people. And Bill Asali has already come out as the U.S. attorney and said, well, here's the scoop. We have ICE agents. They're being doxxed by liberals. Their families are in danger. We're not going to risk their lives any more than we have to, or their families' lives. So we're going to ignore you, Gavin Newsom, because your law is stupid and it doesn't apply to us anyway. I'm sure there'll be a lot of
Well, the important thing is federal law preempts state law. States cannot regulate the federal government, period.
Can we
Kirk, for the
regulate
last
them?
story, I want you to repeat my favorite, which Gavin isn't taking credit for, and that's about the solar plant, which literally is being shut down, costing how much money? I haven't heard Gavin brag about that lately.
More of the Solyndra waste of taxpayer money. Liberals have this cult-like adherence to so-called alternative or solar energy, even though the Chinese make solar panels for 1/6 the price of Solyndra and many U.S. manufacturers. A $2.2 billion solar plant in California was turned off after years of wasting money. Never lived up to its promises. Well, we could have told you that in advance.
Not only that, to let you know, it also killed a lot of birds. It was an entire waste of money. And like many things, by the way, there was a great post tonight. I think it was by Dalton. That's kind of a list of Gavin's failures. Yes, there it is. And there's many. If that picture was not artificially touched up, you would see dead birds all over it there because many birds happen to die in these really big mirrors that they ran into. So that's actually kind of a good way to roll to the end here. We've got the highest cost of living. We are the leader in homelessness. We're the top poverty rate, top fentanyl deaths, highest gas prices, highest state death actually, worst job growth, and there isn't room on one slide to go on for highest unemployment rate, etc. Gentlemen,
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
exactly. And now we see a picture of, doesn't matter downtown where, but is this what you want for California? Scott, can I roll to the end here, gents, as you leave that up there? Okay.
Sure.
Look,
One more thing, Mike. You got Westwood Village, where people in Los Angeles used to go for fun in our youth. Most of the stores are boarded up and closed, and 5,000 homeless people live there. Democrats to blame.
yep. And this could be Westwood Village. So for everyone out there, if you're wondering what's wrong with California, and I'm on a lot of liberal feeds too, and some of you have actually put this on a feed intentionally tonight. It's not about being liberal. It's not about Trump, as even Cal Matters put out this week, or even about Newsom. It's about the people, you paying attention and changing the direction of the state. Stop siding with one side, and yes, that includes some even the right things that come out, but especially on the left, you just tend to follow because somebody told you something in a feed that must make sense to you. It doesn't. Look around. Look around very carefully, away from your computer, away from the television set. And if you dare, drive some of the streets of the second biggest city in America, Los Angeles. Go up to Oakland. I challenge you. Go look at some of the bus stops in the San Gabriel Valley and see some of the people living there. This is the fault. Actually, this is going to shock even my co-hosts, not necessarily of the Democrats, but of we the people. Not because you're Democrat or Republican, because you have to do something to stay up on these issues today. I want to add there's a lot of people that argue in my feeds where I get a couple million views a week that, oh, the Republicans are in charge of this in Congress, this shouldn't happen. You're not even Googling the information before you're just becoming adversarial with me because you think, and I do, represent a certain side of the aisle. Here's the reality of the situation. Prop 50 is bad for California. More importantly, it's really bad for you. Your representation should represent you. And Prop 50 doesn't allow it to be done. And that's what we voted in, that Gavin Newsom is trying to, and his cronies are trying to take away. Do something about it. Tell people no on 50. And if you don't agree with me no on 50, go study up and give me a reason besides Trump, 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 Texas, Texas, Texas. Look at your life, what you'll be left to live with, because you don't live in Texas long after Trump is out of office. How's Gavin Newsom working out for you? Happy with your taxes? Happy with the prices at the pump? Happy with your electric bill? Most of you aren't. So stop clinging to the myth that it's not the Democrats, but a small group of people have taken over one side of the aisle in California, and a small group of people have gained a large voice, while most of you really have no voice at all. Exercise your voice, vote no on 50 to keep your voice and representation in Congress the way that the U.S. Constitution was designed to have done. God bless you. Thank you for listening tonight to California Free Radio. We represent you, right, left, indifferent, etc. I'm going to tell you no on 50, and you're going to have to give me a really good reason, but engage with me if you want. My DMs are open on X. I'm open on Facebook. I'm open on LinkedIn. And I certainly challenge you to get involved. Besides, get involved means just don't be adversarial. Give a damn and do something. Make a move every day to bring in more people. Because again, we're all Californians, and it's our damn state, and it's up to us to keep it. Thank you, and good night, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
California Free Radio from behind.